Okay, nice. It actually has a countdown. Fingers crossed, this all goes well. This is my first time using Restream. And, well, actually, my second time. I did my few little seconds of a test run. And I am currently putting on some socks because it's still cold. Hey, William, thanks for joining. So, yeah, this will be a little bit different. I've actually got my webcam working, so it won't just be the little blip blip like last week. I think the camera on my laptop has finally died after several years. So we will see how this goes. And it looks like with the webcam, I actually need to sit a bit farther back. I'll have to figure out the lighting and all that other stuff. So this week, we are going on to week 8 of The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And this is Recovering a Sense of Strength. Last week, we talked about connection, different things that get in the way of that, how fear and perfection hold us back from our creativity. And this week, we're focusing on our own personal strength, taking a look at ourselves, what's getting in the way. So, William, thought you said you put up William's comment. Thought you said you're not a morning person. I'm not. But lately, it seems to be when I have most of my energy. So I decided that's when I'm going to start doing some sprints right now. Is it? It would be evening for you now, William, isn't it? Because I know you're way ahead. And actually, I found someone else who's interested in reading the Urantia book. I haven't started it yet. I've been catching up on some other reading and trying to get things planned out. That's going to be part of the sprints today, is starting to get my notes figured out because I haven't been recording for a while. Lots of ideas, lots of books and things I can talk about. I just haven't decided what I want to do. I've rearranged my room since the last stream. So last time I was facing that wall. Now I'm facing in the other direction. So yeah, I'll have to get this light thing there. Oh, see, well, that's semi better. It's actually my brother in law, and he doesn't do YouTube. We were just talking about a whole lot of other things. And so he's into quantum physics, simulation theory, and a lot of different thoughts. He's read a number of different books, so we've been catching up lately. And I showed him my copies of the Urantia book. So he may actually borrow my copy because I have two, so I can read the one that's sectioned out. And yeah, that will be interesting to see how that goes over the next, well, couple of years, because as you know, it's a massive book. Okay, so first off, as always, if you can join in, thank you so much. It's always appreciated. If your team rewatch, equally appreciated because I know between work, time zones, and life, which we've had a bit of it here lately, does make it challenging to catch up on live streams, videos, all the rest of it. And with that said, first off, I'm going to get into talking about week 8. Then we'll do a few sprints, come back, do some chats. I may be running until noon, excuse me, noon today. And then we'll see. I'll have to check out and see how Restream runs. Like I say, whole new experience, plus with the webcam. So hopefully the volume is coming through good. And yeah, with that said, let's work our way through recovering a sense of strength. Now, I've talked quite a bit in the other live streams about Julia Cameron, her recovery, her focus on Alcoholics Anonymous, which was a big part of helping her. And that was back in the 1970s when she began the program. So a lot of her works with helping blocked artists tend to be 12-week programs. The exception was the Listening Path, which I did a series of videos on. You can find those in the self-help playlist. And now we're working through The Artist's Way. I believe it's her first program, and then she went on to develop a number of others. Haven't decided yet if I'm going to maybe just do those as a general video and let people know about the separate programs. So in Recovering a Sense of Strength on page 129, Julia begins, and she always has a nice summary on the side. Each week involves some different concepts, a few suggestions and activities to do, and then the week ends with, up till week 7, it was 10 exercises. This week there are 8. And then at the end of the week, you do a check-in in terms of, were you doing your morning pages, which I've mentioned is not a type of journaling that works for me. This is where that morning person comes in, William, because it's just first thing in the morning. There is no stream of consciousness to put down. I just basically go for my morning coffee and let my mind do its thing. Throughout the day, I do journaling. Excuse me. And it's journaling that I find works better for me in terms of, what do I need to focus on? Where do I need to make improvements? And what am I kind of stuck on, just constantly going through my brain? Hey, Margaret, thanks for joining. So on the check-in, we've got the morning pages. Did you do your artist date? That's something where you just by yourself go have some fun, enjoy yourself, blend it into your week. You make an appointment with yourself. You don't break it. You don't fluff it off. You think of it as an appointment that you'd make with anybody else. So you could go shopping for maybe craft supplies, whatever your artistic lean is towards. Could be creating YouTube videos, which I finally clued in. Oh yeah, content creator. That is a type of art. It could be for painting or writing. Oh, good for you, Margaret. So, see, may not work for me, but Margaret did do a morning page. And excuse me, allergies are getting to me. All right, hang on. There we go. Allergies are here, even though it's cool here and it's June. So definitely not our normal weather. The allergies are normal. So with morning pages, yeah, it's just stream of consciousness. And Julia describes it as, if you're trying to figure out what to say or you don't know, you could just write, I don't know, this is silly, this is stupid, and then see what else comes from it. When I did the program, and this is my 3rd time through it, when I did it before, I actually did the morning pages. And yes, in the morning, but they worked and they were okay. I prefer my other type of journaling. And for me, it works just as well. And for me, that's the beauty of doing these different types of programs with books is you tweak them and fine tune them to make them fit for you. So the artist date, whether it's 10 minutes or an hour, whatever you have to work into your schedule, you don't take anyone with you. That's just time for you, yourself, and having some fun, relax, do something enjoyable. The other part of the check in is are there things that you've noticed that have improved as you've been working through the program? Are there things that you fine tuned, tweaked, or setting goals for things you need to continue to work on? Each week, and I've now gotten to reading the chapters on Sunday, and then through the rest of the week, I go through the different activities I've highlighted. So this week tackles another major creative block, time. And this one comes up a lot. We're either too busy, too distracted, too many other things going on. So time stands in the way of us tapping into our creativity. Making videos, same thing. It's, oh, I don't have time to record or I don't have time to edit. It's that big T word that gets in the way. Julia goes on to say, you'll identify immediate and practical changes you can make in your current life. So this week is about looking at ourselves, our time management, what is standing in the way of our creativity, whatever it is we're wanting to create. Maybe you want to start that first novel. William, I know you mentioned there was a screenplay, I believe. I know there was something you mentioned in Gareth's birthday stream that you wanted to work on. Is it a piece of art that you want to make? For me, and actually, I was just talking to my brother-in-law and sister-in-law on the weekend. We had a lovely visit, and we were talking about, artwork and drawing. And I've got, excuse me, a number of different books on how to. And I did take an at-home art course years ago, but I've never gotten back into fine-tuning those skills and moving forward with that. Excuse me. And we actually did go see an art display here in the city, and it was amazing to see all the different creativity. Some of it was painted work and beautiful. Sorry, it's going to be something every live stream, it seems. This week it's going to be my voice. All right, let's hope. There we go, my normal voice. So it was amazing to see that because there was, like I say, painted works, there were sculptures, so there was a really neat robot, and there were the comments from Asimov and a number of other things, and the robot was as tall as me, which actually it might have been a bit taller, and I'm 5'4". There were various pieces that were literally made with all pennies. So one was a sculpture using pennies, another one was a picture, and the pennies were all around. It was amazing. Other pieces had a combination of paints and fabric and drawn sections. So it was really cool to see all the different, what you call them, mediums put into one final piece. Okay, Margaret saying, another booktube friend, Heather Gregg, does artist dates. Nice. Takes the camera somewhere. like a quilt exhibition or other type, and she's in Northern Ireland. Oh, that would be cool to see all the different things for sure. William is letting me know. So he mentioned an idea to pitch a hypothetical episode for Black Mirror. Could write how it plays out. Wish someone would steal it. And it's interesting because, and I'm trying to think whether it was in, might have been in Julia Cameron's work, may have been in some of the other books that I've been reading, because I've got a few different ones on the go at the moment. How, and yes, it's Julia shared how a number of people will come up with the same idea at the same time, whether it's for a book or a play or a movie, and then one person gets published or it gets produced, and other people who had the idea didn't move forward with it. So it's kind of interesting how that all flows together. So she starts this week with the concept of survival. So she says, all artists must learn the art of surviving loss, whether that's a loss of hope or a loss of faith, loss of money, or a loss of self-belief. I mean, we've talked about, I know I certainly have, YouTube can definitely be a crushing experience, especially when you've spent time on a video or there's a book you're really excited about. You put it up and it goes nowhere. Or you see some people, their subs just grow and grow and grow and grow, and yours stagnate or go down. You really can't take that personally. So dealing with that sense of loss, whether it's, putting up a video and then you're like, oh, was that really good? Did I say something wrong? So really having to learn to be resilient and moving through that experience. So she goes on to say, they're hazards of the road, it's signposts. So the losses can be turned into artistic gains and strengths. So again, really having to look at what happened, and instead of beating ourselves up about it, because we all make mistakes, that's part of the human experience. But then what do we do with it? Do we learn from it? Do we move forward? Do we get stuck? She says, we must acknowledge it and share it. Now, I share mine mostly in my journal. That's where I just get out my stuff, my frustrations, all of that type of thing. And I find that's better, because sometimes we'll take something personally. It wasn't meant or intended that way. And then when we talk to the individual, that's when we work things out and realize, whoops, didn't see that situation accurately or clearly, and that's where communication is crucial. She also says, because artistic losses are seldom openly acknowledged or mourned, and this was an interesting point that she talked about, they become artistic scar tissue that blocks artistic growth. I hadn't really thought of, the word loss, yes, is, that made sense. But then she talks about grieving about that loss. So whether it's a video that didn't do well, an art piece that people aren't raving about, a book that maybe didn't sell, acknowledging that, moving through that experience, whether that's talking to other people, journaling about it, learning from that experience, acknowledging with ourselves, yeah, my feelings are hurt, or yes, I'm upset, and then letting it go. And that's the key part. Moving through it, Because again, when we think of grief, typically we think of a human or a fur kid and moving through that grieving process. Rarely, myself included, even though I've read it and I keep forgetting it, the losses, whether that's a relationship with someone, something we were hoping that would work out that doesn't, it's the same type of grieving process. And we all have to honor our own way of grieving, moving through it, letting go, and then continuing on and moving forward. And it's interesting because yesterday I redid my Moon Oracle cards. I still need to update that video. And it was interesting how, from the one deck, two of the cards that I pulled were exactly the same two cards I pulled back in April. Now, I can't remember how many cards overall are in the deck. I think it's more than 21. Either way, the odds of those two cards coming up again together is huge. And they're both relevant because the one talks about stay in the present moment because the present is where we make change. I mean, you look at the past and review it, learn from it, move forward. You look at the future to make plans and what direction do you want to move? Where do you want to go? But it's the present where we take action and actively make that change. And Margaret says, Elizabeth Gilbert talks about the concept of genius ideas too. Okay. Elizabeth Gilbert, is she the Eat, Pray, Love author, Margaret? And I think I know if it's the same author I'm thinking of, she also has an exercise activity book, concepts for artists, writers who are blocked. And she talks about her process, always having those other jobs, not relying just on her writing. And I think it wasn't until Eat, Pray, Love that she finally gave up the second job and focused solely on her writing. And I've got to get the name of that down. I know I've got it in my tally of what I've been reading, but I need to do a comparison, and I still need to read Eat, Pray, Love. I picked it up at the thrift store, and I haven't been drawn to read it yet. William says, the idea, how would an AI smart home react to a failing marriage? Interesting. And I don't know, those AI, I don't have Alexa or that kind of stuff. It freaks me out. And it's funny, we all have different things. A friend of mine is very limited on what she'll do in terms of the internet. Whereas, here I am live streaming and doing other things. She has an Alexa. She's okay with that. I will not have that thing in my house. It just freaks me out. Now this is interesting. Grieving dreams is another type. Now, Margaret, do you mean dreams that refer to grief and how we move through it, or maybe working through grief in our dreams, or dreams that are specifically about grief? Because that's a very interesting point. And then Margaret goes on to say, okay, I was right. She is the one of Eat, Pray, Love. I think you're talking it's big magic or creative magic. It's not how I remember it. Actually, because I am getting, like I say, things are moved and getting some things together. I actually got it as an audiobook through my library, and I need to, where did I read it? See, this is why I like old school versus, and Margaret, I know you're good with Storygraph and pulling things up. And I am old school and can just quick glance down the page. Wow, I must have listened to it much earlier than I thought. Christine. Yes, Big Magic. You're right, Margaret. And yes, I read that or listened to it in February. It was an interesting listen. And her book, unlike Julia's Artist's Way, Elizabeth Gilbert's is geared specific to writers. I mean, you can adapt and modify some of it to other types of artistic creation. Julia's is broader and not geared specifically to writers. But I mean, there's benefit to both. And I did enjoy the listen. I probably should get that through Libby and listen to it again because she did have some really good points in it. Margaret said, have a belts and suspenders approach, Storygraph and planner record. Nice. And see, I'm the same with Goodreads, which is so far behind. I just haven't gotten back to it this year. So I need to actually go and update it from January to keep everything on track. I finally started using that in 2022. And I just, for whatever reason, this year haven't been, well, this year's been a boondoggle. And if you know, you know. But yeah, I need to eventually get into Goodreads, get my things updated. I had a goal set for 25 books, which I finished, I think it was last month. Well, last month was May, might have been in April that I finished the goal. So now that's off my plate, out of my head, and I'm working through other goals. But yes, so being mindful of how do we move through the losses? Do we take the time to grieve and acknowledge it and then letting it go? The other thing that Julia has, and as I've said, she leaves lots of space on the side for writing. Up here, I had put about, you know, the YouTube videos, low views, and how that strikes us. And then she also has comments by a number of other people that relate to the concept we're talking about. So on page 130, she mentions we must remember that our artist is a child and that we can handle what we can handle intellectually far outstrips what we can handle emotionally. We must be alert to flag and mourn our losses. So instead of just fluffing off, you know, maybe it's when I uploaded the video or needed this or needed that. Again, just acknowledging, yes, I'm sad or I'm disappointed, frustrated, whatever the emotions are, acknowledge them, recognize them, and then carry on. She also talks about different types of criticism. So when someone maybe shares something about whether it's a video or another piece of art that we've produced or something that we've done, doesn't even have to be art, maybe related to our work and how we've, you know, done that. There are different types of criticism. Some are helpful. They're presented in a way that we understand the person is sharing their thoughts and ideas and actually trying to help us move forward and improve. The other is just nasty snarkiness, and that's not helpful. And that's the type of criticism to just push to the side. So being mindful of who's presenting it, how they're presenting it, and is it to authentically help us or not. A lot of this week, she really focuses on teachers. And having worked in schools for 23 years, there's a lot of this stuff that I sadly saw played out. As in, there are amazing teachers out there, very supportive, very helpful, get to know their students, encourage all of that type of thing. And then there are some who just don't get it. And that's very sad because they don't stop to think the impact they're having on those students or the impact those words have on a student who may, want to be a writer someday or want to be an artist or a photographer or a film producer. And depending on how those words are presented to a student, they may encourage or they may squash someone's excitement and enthusiasm. So I thought that was very important. And she talks on page 130 about teachers, editors, mentors are often authority figures or parent figures for a young artist. There's a sacred trust inherent in the bond between teacher and student. This trust, when violated, has the impact of a parental violation. What we're talking about here is emotional, and she uses the word incest. Now, I'm not quite sure why she picked that particular word. To me, it would be more like discouragement, not being helpful, damaging a student's self-worth or self-respect. And again, I mean, yes, these are authority figures, so you really need to be mindful of what you're saying, how you're presenting it. To me, that's the big frustration with the world currently in terms of these politicians and what they're saying, how they're behaving. And we have to remember, people are watching this and it reflects in how they decide to behave and the words they use and the actions they take. There's that whole ripple effect of things. William shares, when I wrote my book, each chapter had a bullet point summary so that I can scroll back when those bullet points become important later. Cool. And yeah, I really enjoy that type of thing. It's why I like, they don't have them anymore. Well, I think you can still find them. The Idiot's Guides and the For Dummies guides. Each chapter, they had information in the margins. They were well written. The beginning of the chapter started with what you could expect to gain, and the end of the chapter, what did they focus on? It was really a great way of setting it up. Margaret shares, I would call it a betrayal of a position of trust. Exactly. And I agree, Margaret, and I'm the same, is when you're in that role, whether it's your parents, a teacher, a mentor, an editor related to writing books, or an artist, an agent for actors, actresses, it is that position of trust. You're expecting someone to support and guide you. And if they're just being nasty and the comments aren't true to form, then it's not helpful. I mean, we really need to stop and think what you're saying and how you're saying it. The next part she goes on to, and it did make me giggle, on page 131, the section's called the Ivory Power. And we used to joke about a certain location and called it the Ivory Tower, as in the people who all thought they were spectacular, making their six-figure salaries, but so out of touch, it was pathetic. But she talks about her experience as a teacher because she did begin teaching the Artist Way as a class first, and she spent 12 years doing that before. I think I'm remembering correctly that it was 12 years. And she put all of her work together to create the Artist's Way before it became a published work and accessible to more people. So she talks about the different things that she saw in schools. She makes the difference between academics being intellectual and how that comes across. So on 132, pardon me, she says, creativity cannot be comfortably quantified in intellectual terms. By its very nature, creativity eschews such containment. In a university where the intellectual life is built upon the art of criticizing, on deconstructing a creative work, the art of creation itself, the art of creative construction, meets with scanty support, understanding, or approval. To be blunt, most academics know how to take something apart, but not how to assemble it. Now, that may or may not be true. I think that's a bit of a generalization, and it depends again on the academic and the people who she had connections with and how they presented themselves. Now, she says artists and intellectuals are not the same animal. And again, I'm not sure I would agree with that because I think you can be both. I think, again, it's very much dependent on the individual, how they view and experience the world, what they see as important. So, to me, some of those are big generalizations. There was one thing that stood out. This is on page 133. This process may seem, and she's talking about making art, may seem both painstaking and petty, but it's a necessary rite of passage. Just as a teenager must gain autonomy from an overbearing parent, so too an artist must gain autonomy from malignant artistic mentors. And I mean, I guess another way of putting that is learning to build a thick skin. This again can relate back to YouTube, not taking things personally, realizing that when we put up a video, we're competing with, I think the last figure I heard is 20 million videos going up a day. A day. So getting any views is something to celebrate. And yes, there are some channels that get far more, far quicker, but it is what it is. You have to factor in a whole number of things. What are you talking about? Have you found your people? Do you have a supportive community? It isn't the algorithm. And it happens on all social platforms, not just YouTube. Think of Facebook and the people who are going for all those likes and that type of thing. Again, just being mindful and not taking it personally. She mentions on page 134 about suffering injuries. So she's talked about losses. Now she's talking about injuries and comparing it to an athlete. Give yourself the dignity of admitting your artistic wounds. So again, carrying on with that, accepting, acknowledging if you're hurt, you're frustrated, you've hit a wall, and then start looking for how to move past that, whether that's reaching out to other people, all of that type of thing. She's also talking about lost chances often haunt us bitterly in later years. So she gives examples of people who are given opportunities, whether that's to be in a play, write a book, get published, what have you, and then they come up with all the different reasons they're not going to do it, whether that involves moving to a new location, taking a risk, taking a chance. And so what she's saying is really assess, you know, are the reasons you're giving for not following through valid, or are you just afraid to take that leap and take that chance? And also looking down the road, are you going to look back with regret later on of why didn't I do that? So before we go on to the next section, William says, though what politicians say, the great man knows when to subdue his tongue, as the Urantia book says. And that's great advice. I mean, we've also got the part of, sometimes it's better to keep your foot out of your mouth. There's a lot of different ways of saying that. Find your community. Yes, not the raw numbers. Exactly. It's about people, it's about connections, it's not about math. She goes on to talk about gain disguised as loss. And this chapter also reminded me of The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho and The Journey of Santiago. I mean, there were a lot of bad things that happened as he followed his dream. There were things that delayed him by months and in some cases years before things started to flow differently. But instead of being a negative, it's looking at all those things that he moved onwards versus just heading straight from point A to point B, gave him skills, knowledge, and information that he needed that was of benefit to continue his journey. So sometimes it may seem like we've fallen off the path or we're going in the wrong direction instead of looking at what skills are we gaining? What are the benefits that we're getting and learning from that process? Now, she talks about every loss must always be viewed as a potential gain. It's all in the framing. And I put beside it perspective. So it's how we look at things. So when something happens, do we look at it as, well, I should just give up? Or, I can't do this, instead of what did I learn? Who can I count on? Who's there supporting me? Who can I ask for information? So again, it's just a different way of saying it, but the importance is looking at the situation and how can that help us in the long run. She goes on to say, every end is a beginning, and then move through the grief. And again, and I think about, and this goes back to Steering by Starlight by Martha Beck, and she talks about the ring of fire. So may lose connections with people. There may be other situations that we move away from because we've changed, they haven't, or they've changed, we haven't. Works both ways. And acknowledging and recognizing those changes, those losses, and moving through it. And then, of course, her suggestion is focus on what lies ahead. So you're still making plans, and you also need to take a look at sometimes those losses and shifts in personal relationships. Yes, grieve the ending of them, but also recognize that with that loss, there are some new people that may come into your life. You haven't met them yet. You may not even know where they're coming from yet, but you still keep moving forward. So even though there have been some losses, it doesn't mean there's another saying, and a number of people, I can't even remember where it came up from. Either I read it, I heard it from somebody, but when things are really hitting the fan, there's that this too shall pass. So when you're in the middle of things, it's hard to sometimes plan ahead or see the light, all of that type of thing. But we have to remember it's not going to stay that way all the time. There's a lot of changes, there's a lot of transitions, and that's a constant. It's the one guaranteed in life that things are not always going to stay the same. The people around us aren't going to stay the same, and moving forward that way. And William shares about regret. Every what if question is potential for writing a story. Putting my what if question in writing is very therapeutic. Excellent. And that's a great idea, William. Margaret says, I've just seen every end as a beginning somewhere in the past day. That's cool. Synchronicity. Margaret says, one of my standing quotes on Pinterest, I haven't been on there in ages. I got rid of my account, but they had a lot of cool things from years ago, was about letting go of one thing to be able to catch the next. Yeah, that's cool. And I mean, even that's part of like with unhauling, right? Whether that's clothing or books or things, and you're making space for new things, new people, new experiences to come in. Yeah, that's a great way of thinking of it. William William says, questions like, what if I took the other path years ago? Exactly. And I mean, you could build a story out of that. You could get into parallel universes, different dimensions. There's a lot of creativity flowing from that type of experience. So that's great, William. Julia mentioned, and it's funny, I watched Miami Vice. I never noticed that she was one of the people writing scripts for it. So she talks about going to Chicago, using her Miami Vice writing money to produce a film of her own because no one was going to do it for her. It wasn't happening. And this is an excellent way of putting it. And I've seen this in other books and rephrased as well. So instead of the why me, as in why isn't my channel growing? Why aren't my videos getting more views? The question to ask yourself is, how can I get more views? How can I get my channel to grow? So again, that perspective and what are we asking ourselves? What are we looking at? And she mentions, I've learned that the key to career resiliency is self-empowerment and choice. And again, that comes back to us. How do we want to do things? What do we focus on? And moving forward, are we looking for the people who can help and support us? Are we sticking with people who may not be helping and supporting us, but we're afraid to let go because, well, what if I let these people go and no one else comes to replace them type of thing. So there's that whole risk and fear and knowing when it's time to move forward and when it's time to stay and fine tune and tweak different relationships. Another interesting thing she mentions on page 137, I know Shelley Duvall from The Shining by Stephen King. I did not know she created a series called Fairy Tale Theater. I've never heard of it. I've never seen it. So that was kind of interesting. And of course, the point that Julia is making is that action is the key. And this comes up and it frustrates me to no end in a lot of this law of attraction stuff. One book I'm reading right now has to do with The Secret Revealed and talking about, The Secret makes it sound so easy. And it's not just Rhonda Byrne. There's a number of other authors who do the same thing. is, oh, you just think about it and yada, yada. I mean, one suggestion she had was to write yourself a check and expect that money to come. I mean, no, that's not how the world works. Yes, set out a goal, may have dreams and, vision boards and all the rest of it, but you still have to do the actual steps. You can't just dream about a job but not send out the application. So, and that's the part that a lot of these books miss. And people get suckered, sadly, all the time by that. But the action is the crucial part of manifesting and getting those things to work and improve. Now, and I need to write this out and put it up on my board because I love this. So she goes on to talk about age and time, so product and process. And she mentioned this in one of the earlier weeks as well. Question: do you know how old I'll be by the time I learn to play the piano? Answer: the same age you'll be if you don't. I mean, that is perfect. And yes, I'm guilty of this as well. And oddly enough, yes, I have the piano downstairs. I just need to sit at it and play. And it's true. Here I am 10 plus years later, and it's still waiting. So, too often we put in, and she also goes on to talk about that reverse part of, oh, I'll get to that when I'm retired. So we either use, I'm getting too old, it'll take me too long, so what's the point? Or I'm too busy right now, I'll do that later. Because, of course, we always assume there's a later. And because of my own life situation, I know for a lot of people that doesn't happen. I've been losing friends since high school and family, and they all thought there was later. And so that's why I'm very much about in the day, in the now, and moving forward that way. I mean, you make plans, you make long-term plans because it makes sense. And, you keep moving forward the best you can. I look at it as each day is a gift, and what are you going to do with the gift of today? Sometimes, the day just isn't going the way you had hoped. There's a variety of different issues. For myself, chronic pain is a huge factor on what I'm going to do, how I'm feeling, all of that. And if it's not a good day, then there are some things I won't do because I know trying to force myself through that means tomorrow when I look back, I'm not going to be happy with what I did, and then I'm going to have to start all over again. So that's not the best use of my time. So some days you just call it a day, grab a book, grab a coffee, go sit in the yard, do whatever it is you do, and that's that. And then tomorrow you start all over again and hope that it's a better day. So yeah, that's kind of how I move through the world. She says this attention to final form, so figuring out what we want the finished product to be versus the steps. So then we get all caught up in, not recognizing that the first videos we make are not going to be great. They're going to need improvement. The first time we try and draw something or paint something or play something, they're not going to be great. It's going to need fine tuning. It's going to need practice, 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 and a lot of practice. And sometimes people get caught up in that, oh, it's going to take so long, so they just don't start. And this is where taking that honest inventory and self-assessment is crucial. And again, not to beat ourselves up or feel bad about where we're at or any of that. It's to take a look at, what do I seriously want to work on, and what are the baby steps that can get me to the finished product? Because every journey starts with one small step, and every finished project starts with one small action, whether that's making a plan and writing it out, whether that's connecting to somebody, all of that. We need to think of what are the steps, not the end product, because then we get overwhelmed, and that's when we don't start. Okay, I just want to read on and then I'll get to the comments. We wonder if it will be good for our career, fixated on the need to have something to show for our labors. We often deny our curiosities. Every time we do this, we're blocked. So instead of, like I say, taking those baby steps, we're thinking of, this needs to be done. I mean, personally, the one nice thing about cutting grass, although I don't have much of it, is at the end of it, you see that it's finished. You can see as you're going. I think that's why I love crafts like coloring, because as you're going through the page, you can see you have something finished. Those are the types of things that I enjoy. When you're reading a book, you can see how many pages you have read. So it's that seeing progress. Same with getting my bulletin boards and things figured out. And I keep looking up because I've got my board right in front of me again. I want to redo that. There are some things that I'm going to keep, like the perspective gold section in the middle, and of course, my grandmother's old pin cushion. But there are some other things I want to redo on there. And that question of, how old will you be? That may be something I put on a different card. I've got lovely stickers that a viewer sent me, along with some washi tape, bless her heart. And yes, sorry, Margaret, it was from my Amazon wish list. But I have all of those things that I can now incorporate and use on my board. So again, not blocking ourselves by it needs to be done, but getting excited and enthusiastic about what are the steps that I can do. Which does remind me, Margaret, I looked for the SARC journal and I sadly can't get it right now. It's out of stock. But I am looking forward to getting that, because I loved the journal pages that you were sharing and the different types of journaling. There's so many different ways to do journaling, and that's why it's important to find what works best for us. So before I get to the next section, Margaret says, yeah, it's all AI slot, but sometimes I'm trying to remember an image. I know it's there. Just have to dodge all the other crap it throws at me. Yeah, very, very true. And again, having to be aware of recognizing that, because it really isn't easy. The voices, compared to when I was first working on Kurzweil with students versus the voices now, it's a lot harder to tell the difference for sure. William says, at this point in life, I'm making less plans. I'm accepting later probably does not exist in 90% of cases. And see, I'm 62 and I'm still making plans, trying to figure things out. I think I already, this is Margaret. I think I already recommended, Barbara Shear, but this reminds me, I think you would dig her. Actually, I love her, and I have her Refuse to Choose. love her work, and I actually need to get back to doing the various suggestions in there. And it was a really helpful read, and I would recommend for anyone who feels they have ADHD or ADD and determining various things that you can put into place to help you with getting organized. But yes, I love Barbara Shear. Thank you for mentioning her, Margaret, because I have another one of her books that I found at the thrift store, thankfully. It's, oh, I would, I could do anything I want if only I knew what it was. I still need to read that. So I need to pull that out and give that a read shortly. But yeah, she is amazing. I love her work. And what makes me very sad, oh, she calls them scanners. Um, what makes me very sad is since her passing, her message boards have been taken down off her website. The website's still there, but yeah, that's unfortunate because that's where all these people were connecting. And now those boards and that opportunity to connect is gone, unfortunately. But yeah, love her work. I actually have a project. I've got 2 copies of Refuse to Choose. One I took apart, like literally the whole thing, and I'm hoping to work out the chapters updated because, of course, when Barbara wrote that, it was long before the different jobs and careers that are around now. Some of the opportunities and things she mentions were valid back then, but unfortunately, or fortunately, the world has changed dramatically since then. So the basic concepts that she has still applies, but how to put them into place is very different, and having to navigate this new world. Margaret asking, William, aren't you younger than I am? And William says, I've actually lived out many of my dreams. Lucky guy. The degree of satisfaction and success were not as grand as I had hoped. That part's unfortunate, but actually being able to live out a lot of your dreams is. And I've had a lot of amazing jobs and things as well, but then you fine tune and keep working towards others. Margaret has a heart, love ya. William is 41. You're a baby. And Margaret's 45. Also baby. More later, at least a few decades. I'm 45. I hope I have more later, at least a few decades. Exactly. And that's it. That's why you keep modifying and making plans. I mean, I've said it before. I didn't plan to still be around in my 60s. Yes, that did screw up my financial planning and other things, but the universe had other plans. I'm still doing well. I can still go book shopping and things. So it's all good. It's just not what I had planned because I was thinking I would be at work, not at home. Oops. Um, William has hope so too, and wishing Margaret decades as well. Hey, Kat, thanks for joining in. Margaret says, shares on my list of life changers. Yeah, she definitely is. Wishcraft. There you go. Now, I don't have that one. No, I don't actually. I need to look that one up. I'm going to put that on my list. And yeah, she is amazing. I would say for life changers, for me, definitely Sheer with Refuse to Choose, and the concept of being a scanner. Definitely Martha Beck, Steering by Starlight. and Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way, because I read Steering and worked through The Artist during my back injury. And I've said it before. I mean, they both literally helped me get back on my feet and moving forward again, because that was a really brutal time. But yeah, Barbara Scheer, I highly recommend. Like I say, reading through it, some of the opportunities she talks about and refuse to choose are different because our work experience and economies, everything have changed dramatically, especially in the last few years. But the other points, the core points she talks about, are still as relevant today as they were before. I have another Martha Beck that I need to read, Finding Your North Star, and that ties in with her Steering by Starlight, which again has a lot of amazing and interesting activities in it, thoughts, and that all ties in with James Redfield's Celestine Prophecy. Martha Beck talks a lot about synchronicity and things falling into place. And I'd actually mentioned with Kat before too. It's interesting how the more you read different things, and whether it's fiction or nonfiction, how all these things seem to overlap and connect over time, whether it's concepts of synchronicity, relationships, what have you. So, yeah, a lot of really good stuff. Thanks everyone for sharing your comments and ideas as well, because that's the fun part of doing this is it isn't just me talking in a video, it's that interactive engagement. The next part that Julia talks about, the section is labeled Filling the Form. This is where you take a look at your own life and fine tune and tweak where you need to so that you can start making plans, taking those baby steps, and moving forward. So she talks about most of the time, this is page 141, the next right thing is something small. So again, we were talking earlier about it isn't those big things, it's those little baby steps. So it might be something as simple as washing your paintbrushes, stopping by the art store, getting your clay, checking the local paper for a list of acting classes. As a rule of thumb, it's best to just admit that there's always one action you can take for your creativity daily. This daily action commitment fills the form. So, whatever it is, whether that's typing a page, dictating a page, getting supplies, in my case, getting things organized. And yesterday, and I may keep I still need to finish my baker's rack there and get my shelves organized. But I've got my craft boxes with the inspirational sayings. I finally found a home for my haunted house, which is made from recycled metals. I've got that basket are the projects and things I want to do. So, even if I just get one shelf, one basket organized a day, eventually the whole dragon cave will be organized. I have a stand next to me with 6 shelves. I have to decide what do I want to put in them so that they're handy as I'm working and making notes. So, yes, Margaret, you have been my inspiration with those lovely, colorful journal notes that I definitely want to start figuring out. And I also, and I don't know why I didn't think of it before, some of the journals I've kind of started, then decided I wanted to do something different in them. And I can add different pages. I can just use Scotch tape or washi tape and add pages into the different parts. So, Margaret, thank you so much for that idea because I love the idea of using stickers, and I have glow in the dark things. So, I have a number of different things. I can jazz up covers, jazz up pages. I've got, my markers, colors, smelly markers, highlighters, so many things. I just need to, well, this week, Bob has a surgery on Thursday. Fingers crossed, all goes well. He goes early in the morning. He won't be home until later, probably that evening, because between the biopsy, the surgery, the recovery, and then coming home, and then he's home for 2 weeks. So this week, I expect is still going to be a bit of a boondoggle, but then once he's home and it's done, is on the mend. He'll be home relaxing, lots of nap time with Panther and Tiki, no doubt. And I may be moving downstairs to do some of my recording, which now is not an issue because since I have my handy dandy little movable camera with the microphone, I know I don't have to keep worrying about the audio, which is why I stopped doing my Friday readings. Well, like this chapter says, I just didn't want to sit, record for 30 to 40 minutes and then find out the audio's crap and then I got to redo it again. So now that I've got the webcam, big thanks to the hubs, I can record now anywhere and not have to worry about the camera or the audio because it seems to be working fine. So, yay. And again, everything falls in place when it needs to. And same with the live stream. So I tried Streamlabs. I could never get it to connect to YouTube. I went through all the fixes, watched the videos, websites, everything, had a chat with Noah. Nothing worked. And that was hours and hours over 2.5 weeks. I was just getting frustrated with it. I didn't want anything to do with it. Bob found this thing called Restream, checked it out, and boom, here I am. It's like StreamYard, as in instead of you've got this desktop and this and that and everything else that doesn't frickin' work on the other thing, and a bot that was, blocking people's comments. This one, at least, I don't have to worry about a bot. It's same as StreamYard. You'll log in, it opens up. You can schedule lives. You've got the banners, all kinds of other things. A few I need to figure out yet because there's music, themes, and other stuff. But yay. So again, I believe things work out when they're meant to. And it doesn't mean that's what I was hoping. And that's the other part that a lot of these law of attraction things miss. There are different things that I've hoped for and wanted throughout my life. The treatment room downstairs, which I love the setup of. Then we got flooded a couple years ago, so that would have been a boondoggle. It didn't work out. People who were going to make referrals or going to be supportive turned out not to be. And that was frustrating. I grieved it. I shut it all down. The room's been changed, mostly because of the flood as well. But it was meant to be. And now years later, I can see it that way. But again, when you're in the middle of something going kablooey, it doesn't feel that way. And it certainly doesn't feel good, but you acknowledge it. You acknowledge what you're feeling. You find a way to work through it, whether that's journaling or exercise or whatever, to get it out of your system. And then you make new plans and move forward. And here we are, me almost, and I was saying to someone the other day, it's wild. I have 645 videos up. Now, probably if I factor in the videos I've taken down and the number of videos that I've deleted that never went up, I'm probably at 650. And for someone who typically wasn't in front of a camera, that's pretty amazing. If anyone had told me I'd have a YouTube channel 5, 6 years ago, I would have laughed. Like, no way am I making videos and putting myself out there. And now here I am, 4 years on YouTube and 645 videos that are up. So, again, sometimes the things that work out and happen may not be what you planned, but they work out the way they need to be for you. I think that makes sense. And I think I said that right. So sometimes it isn't what we've planned or what we want. The universe moves us in a different direction. And it's actually funny because years ago I'd gone for a crystal reading, which was very unique. I've never had anyone do a reading with crystals instead of, say, tarot cards or tea leaves. But this person read crystals, and it's interesting because there were a lot of changes that came months later that there was no way I could have foreseen. And this individual told me I wasn't being pushed in a new direction, or I wasn't just being prompted to go in a new direction, I was being pushed. And that was the same year I ended up leaving schools. And I definitely did not foresee ever leaving working as an EA. I fully expected I'd still be at work in one form or another at this point, and yet here I am. Things were very different, and that individual was right. The direction I was headed is not what I had specifically planned long term, but here I am. Now, Julia also says on page 141, creative people are dramatic. We use negative drama to scare ourselves out of our creativity with this notion of wholesale and often destructive change. So she's talking about when we're looking at something and, instead of just looking at, whether you want a career in writing, acting, content creation, whatever it is, but instead of just looking at those baby steps, what do I need to put in place? Who do I need to make connections with? Do I need to get some additional education, take classes, whatever? We look at the big, oh my gosh, what if this works out? Do I have to move? Do I give up this job? And yada, yada, yada. And then we just get overwhelmed. So that's why it's super important to keep it realistic and baby steps. Don't blow it out of proportion. You check things out, you try things out, and you move forward from there. And sometimes if things don't work out right away, it doesn't mean that it isn't meant to be. Like, I don't believe in this, if you're on the right path, everything flows smooth and everything's hunky dory all the time. No, sometimes the universe wants to be sure this is the path that you really want, and there'll be obstacles and barriers. And it's up to you to decide, do you move through those and find ways around them, or do you just give up? And that's entirely up to you. So, like I say, even if something doesn't work out right now, it doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. Same as Santiago and the alchemist. It just means right now there are some different things to learn, some different skills to develop and work on, and then you continue moving forward from there. And again, this is where taking an honest assessment of your own life is crucial, because nobody else knows what your personal dreams are, your life experiences, What do you really, at the end of the day, want to work towards, want to do? And the other part of that is, what are you capable of? So, are you willing to take the classes? Do you have access to financial means or other things that you need to make all of this happen? And if you don't have those, is there a way that you can get them? So that's why it's a very personal, honest journey to get to your final goals. Okay. And exactly, creativity requires activity, is what Julia says on 142. So again, those baby steps, the action. She also suggests watching yourself for a week. How are you spending your time, and are you blocking opportunities to tap into your creativity? How do you spend your time? So you may want to, set up a chart for a week, and what is it you're doing? I mean, obviously, if you work, those hours are going to be blocked off because you need a roof over your head and food on the table. What other times do you have that you could make content if you're a, content creator? What other times could you do some writing, do some painting, do some drawing, play some music, whatever it is that you want to do creatively? When can you fit that in to the rest of your week? Another thing I wanted to mention, this is from page 143. Most block creatives have an active addiction to anxiety. We prefer the low grade pain and occasional heart stopping panic attack to the drudgery of small and simple daily steps in the right direction. And again, perspective, what do we focus on? What do we think about? And instead of going off the deep end, just looking at those baby steps and not overwhelming ourselves with, okay, here's the end goal that I want, but what are the things I can do today? The small things, the one step at a time, the one shelf organization at a time to get to that final big goal. And again, so she suggests, as she has through the whole weekly reading, one small action a day, whatever that action is, and slow and steady. So you keep moving forward. And I'll take it back to YouTube, one video at a time. And each video you take a look, and I don't mean the analytics. Are you happy with what's been put up? And did you say what you wanted to say? Is there something you could change, do different with the background, whatever? Taking a look at each time making something different, whether that's adding more B-roll, whether there's something, with backgrounds, whatever, taking that slow, steady assessment. So instead of giving up, look at where you can fine tune and improve. She has an exercise of 20 questions. She calls it early patternings. So, messages that we got from people and their fill in the blanks. So, was it messages from parents or teachers that inspired or deterred us from following through certain activities that we enjoy? She goes on to talk about affirmations. And again, when you write affirmations, putting them in the positive, she gives a list of them on page 146. You pick 5 of them, and I did pick my 5, and I need to get them written down and put them up on my board where I can see them and focus on. So some of the affirmations she has: I now act affirmatively. I now treat myself and my creativity more gently. I am a talented person. My creativity blesses others. I think that's an excellent one. And certainly something to remember if you're questioning about your videos or live streams, long or short, because there are a number of people who may not comment, may not hit the like button or share the video, but that doesn't mean they didn't get benefit from the experience of listening and watching. I now allow myself to heal. So if there are a number of things that have been in our way, whether that's emotionally or physically, is giving ourselves permission to work through that and move forward. That's all of the points that Julia mentions through week 8. Then, like I say, there are the tasks for the week and the final check-in. Then next week, week 9, we go on to recovering a sense of compassion. Okay, so that, I'm just adding Barbara Shear here to Wishcraft. So that is week 8 for the Artist's Way. I do still need to remember to go through and add when they are on the live streams, because some of them I did the chapter summary at the beginning, others I did the chapter summary at the end. Let's be serious, I just have a lot of cleanup to do on the channel between playlists and other things. But I think for now, what I'm going to do is have a bit of a sprint in terms of reading or writing, whatever it is that you want to do throughout this time. I'm going to change, and I need to find where these come up. Nope. That, whoop, is something different. Is it this? Yes, it is. Okay, so it's now 10:30, almost 10:30, I should say. So I'm going to leave this up for an hour. Oh, that's not the one I want, silly me. That's the one I want. Okay, so I will check in with the comments throughout. Let me know in the comments whether you're reading, crafting. And whoa, I am sorry. Look, the comments just came up. For some reason, they weren't before. Okay, so before I get to that, I was wondering what was going on as I was babbling and I didn't see any more comments. Okay, so Margaret saying hi to Kat. Hi, Margaret. Like the title, never read that one. I'm guessing that's the Refuse to Choose. If it weren't for physics and money, I'd be unstoppable. There we go. Physics limits. William, I appreciate that. Still too young to be president of Italy, president of Singapore. Age requirements 50. Oh, there you go. Well, see, gotta make plans. Margaret. Okay, that one I'm not sure of. Sursley, so weird. And I don't know why. So now good to know, because Restream wasn't showing me these comments. So I apologize for being so far behind. My plans didn't even come close. Was going to write thrillers. You still could. Star in the adaptations, end up with 100 Dalmatian style in our castle with my hot co-star. Only have 2 dogs. Well, hey. So you've got, what, 99 to go, Kat? You've got to start. good fiction somehow seem to meet up with your non-fiction. Yeah, it's true. Except the bad guys die horribly in my fiction. Well, they do in mine too, some of them lately. William, some advice. Sit in a quiet room by yourself. Ask yourself about a problem or what you want. Then, through a series of questions to yourself, the path will open to a solution. I like that, William. That's excellent advice. And yeah, a couple of the books I've been reading lately do talk about the importance of meditation. And that reminds me, and I'm not sure. Oh, good, it does show up. So this is my blue agate. And I love, let's see, there we go, how it looks like different doorways. And so an activity I need to get back to is just looking at that and going through the different doorways. But I agree with also the sit and listen to your higher self. So thank you for sharing that, William. Till, Kat says, Till is overflowing with your lovely hoard. Margaret, glad it got passed on. Oh, Kat, quiet rooms scare me, hear my thoughts, and they get mean. So, see, you need to change those thoughts, Kat. Margaret, currently turning to Big Red Book and fountain pens. Nice. Yeah, I still need to get mine started. And yes, hugs to Kat. Got to get her to change those thoughts for sure into happy, positive ones. William, you want to lose weight? Why haven't you? Expensive gym. Is there an alternative workout? Can you manage your time? You see how it works. Yep, exactly. So yeah, you have the question. Oh, Margaret's off to mending or on the mend. Hope all calms down. Papa Dragon soon. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, the next few days are going to be a bit stressful trying to keep happy thoughts, happy thoughts, happy thoughts. And you know what? That's all we can do, right? You know, he and I were talking. He's optimistic about it. The doctors are optimistic. So we're just all going to stay optimistic. And I'll be glad when he's out of the hospital, home, and on the mend. Hugs back to Margaret. Oh, break over. Continue to lurk. Thanks, Kat. I appreciate it. Margaret said, oh, 913 videos. Good for you. Thought about doing something cool for 1K. Never have good ideas for celebrations. Funny you mention that because I'd considered doing a video for 600. I know a lot of people do Q&A, but I mean, I talk about all the stuff anyhow. And, you know, I guess with live streams, I figure if people want to ask me something, they're going to ask me in the live. So, and the numbers are going up and down. I laugh. According to analytics, I've had 28 new subs in the last month, but I haven't had a 28 bump in overall subs. So, you know, people coming and going, which is normal. YouTube unsubscribing, which is irritating. So, yeah, I've been holding off on it. And to be honest, I don't know what to do. I'm still planning on doing a thank you for the 600 because that'll be different from my other two unsub videos. I'm just not sure what to do yet. Margaret saying, see you at Kat. William pretty much summed up my earlier comment. There we go. And Margaret, need to go through the rest of my morning routine. Nice listening. Thank you so much. Happy June, Margaret. And okay, so now I need to be mindful of that because I was looking at the comment section and for some reason it wasn't sending them through. So I will keep that in mind. And yeah, so far, no one said they couldn't hear me, so the volume's good. I haven't had that weirdo blip with the screen. The only thing it looks like I have an amazing tan at the moment, which I don't yet. So lighting, I need to work out. The nice thing is, even with my other glasses, because it's not bouncing straight ahead, I don't have light bouncing off that. Yay! Okay, I'm going to go spend an hour doing something. Might be doing stuff on the shelves or some journaling. And now that I've caught up with the comments, I will talk to you at 11:30. And I'm going to turn off my camera for now. Mm.
Mm.
Hmm. There we go. Figured I better figure that out before I come back on. A wisp of hair. Evan, yummy. What kind of noodles? I actually picked up some chicken ones last time we were at Costco, and they're quite good, and they only take 3 minutes. And I add some peas and a little extra chicken bouillon to it, but it's a yummy lunch for, well, I'd say pennies, but I'm not sure it works out to pennies anymore. Nice. Ooh, soba chili noodles. Oh, there you go. Cup noodles from Japan. Yeah, I'm not sure where mine are from, but I love it because you just boil some water, pour them over, put the lid on, and ta-da, lunch. And I can't probably have the receipt somewhere because I'm trying to keep track of certain things, but yeah, it works out to a very inexpensive lunch. And like I say, you just have to boil the water and ta-da! Okay. I'm not sure I really like that music. I have to try and remember. I thought it was the indie one that I had. This one's called Atmosphere. Oh, wow. So you get a nice thick sauce with it. Nice. Yeah, mine, the noodles soak up, well, most of the water, but it's more like a soup versus sounds like yours is a bit different and heartier, especially if you're draining the water off. This one doesn't have a lid because you're just making a soup, but what I've done is taken it out of the cup and put it into one of my other containers, and then I can add chickpeas and bouillon, and yeah, it makes a nice quick lunch. Yeah, I'm not really crazy about that background music. I should try the indie rock one again. I think that's what I had on. It wasn't too bad. Yeah, maybe. Leave that on. Sounds much better than the leaf blower, as today was the neighbor's third person, who of course is all machines. But I get it. They do more than one property, so it's still, yeah. Can probably hear that, which is wild because the window's closed and it's triple pane. Lovely that they get to wear headphone or ear protection, but Happy please, happy please, happy please. Well, I guess the good news is it should be done because the leaf blower generally means they're close to done and leaving soon. Ah, cool. Ooh, fancy cup. Nice. Yeah, mine comes, does it come in, do the spices in a packet? Does mine have a packet as well? And sometimes I use them. There was some noodles I got last time, they were in a bowl, and I'm not getting them again because sadly, and I have no idea why, they have mushrooms in the noodles, and Bob can't eat mushrooms, so it's like, well, I can't use that to make Mongolian noodles or anything else. But yeah, they had like a crazy, spicy, super hot thing. Yeah, that looks yummy. Mine are, is it, oh, it's time to come back. So, now I gotta remember. All right, take the sticker off and stop the music. But there we go. So I learned a few different things. I can have the background now when I'm on the stream read part. I've got the new webcam going. So I just have to remember to move back a bit because it comes up a lot closer than the laptop camera did. And then during that sprint, I just got my affirmations written for week 8, wrote out the question of that quote that I love of the question, do you know how old I'll be by the time I learn to play piano? And the answer is the same age you will if you don't. Very true. Very true. Always okay. Oh, Ven saying always stock up on them when we get them in. Sources in a pack. Oh, sauces in a pack. Like as it has. Ooh, so you like the spicy, spicy. And not it yet. Some brands not as nice. Makes sense. Yeah, mine are. I'm just gonna quick grab them. I don't know if I've heard of this company before or not. But see, mine just come in they're Hoya ramen. Golden chicken flavored ramen. So you've got your ramen noodles, and you get a packet with a little bit of bouillon in it, a packet with the spices, and a packet with some dehydrated veggies, so peas, carrots, and then I just add some other peas myself. But it's handy because and I mean, the noodles are most of the packet, but they're definitely yummy. And I'll have to check because there's like a crazy ton of stuff there. But yeah, it's a good thing I checked that one brand because I'm like, why on earth would they use mushrooms in the noodles? And I used to buy, well, we bought a case of these because, like I say, it's a nice, inexpensive lunch. Mr. Noodles is what I always bought. So you just have, but those noodles taste different than these actual ramen ones. But what I might do is either get really wild and try making some of my own pasta because I have the machine to roll it out and spots that I could leave it to dry because you need to leave it to sit out for a bit. But that can tie in with my batch cooking too, because I remember when my grandmother, I don't know what you call them in English, we used to spend Sundays making chiga, and they're just a small little noodle with grooves on it, and we used to put it in chicken soup. But we used to go to other places, and a whole group of people would be working on this project. So some people were mixing up the pasta and rolling it out, other people were cutting it into the squares, and the rest of us sat and rolled it on these little boards, which I still have my board and my grandmother's, which is pretty special. But I don't know what you call them in English. They're not macaroni, but they're about the same size, but they have little grooves on them. But when we used to go and do that, so you'd spend the afternoon all rolling them out, and then they would sit out. I can't remember if she left it for a day or so to dry, and then they were all bagged up, and everybody who had been part of that process got bags of noodles. And I know I'm pretty sure my grandmother used to put them in the freezer and then just take the pasta out as she wanted to use them up. So yeah, at least we got week 8 reviewed from Julia Cameron. I do need to look for Barbara Shear's Wishcraft. Might check out and see if my library has it. Still ticked off they don't have Count of Monte Cristo, like WTF, people. How are the classics not there? But I do have a couple of other Barbara Shears, and I do need to read that one that I mentioned earlier. I think it's called I Could Do Anything I Want If I Just Knew What It Was. The title might actually be shorter, but need to get that read. Oh, no, I was just thinking because last night we actually made, my version of beef stroganoff because no mushrooms, Bob. And I use ground beef, cream of chicken soup, and egg noodles. So I have that for lunch for a few days because always loving the leftovers. But yeah, these are nice and handy, but they're not uber spicy. I don't mind a little bit of spice, but I don't like it like crazy, crazy hot. So what I might do before I wrap up today is just talk about what I am currently reading. Oh, and it's funny, Van, I noticed that Kevin Toll, I'm so far behind on BookTube, But I just saw his live stream yesterday was about week 2 of The Wheel of Time. So he's doing a buddy read with somebody. I still need to get to book 3, but there you go. Life reading. I still need to finish Silver Flames, and then that'll be ACOTAR done. And I still haven't figured out how to delete a group on Voxer because I think pretty much everybody's done. And what I might do is start an ACOTAR group on Discord. That'll be my next adventure, is figuring out how to set up a group and manage that on Discord and connect it to the channel. And yes, woohoo, I may even go over to Twitch. One, then I can watch you on your Resident Evil games, which I'm still just doing my little match 3 games because they make life easy. Just give me some mindless time for a bit. But yeah, then I can watch you with your Resident Evil playing. And the other cool thing with Restream is I can stream this on YouTube and Twitch at the same time. So I may get some new viewers and figure out what I'm going to do the live streams on combined to the 2 channels. That may end up being some of the vampire talks, stories when I get there, and some of the outside the box stuff. And we'll see what happens. So lots of adventures, but this week is just kind of getting through this week. So what am I reading? Let me know in the comments what you're reading. I need to finish Ruth Montgomery's A World Beyond. I found this at my thrift store, and it's about, well, it's work, it's automatic writing, and messages that she says she received from Arthur Ford, who was a medium. And it's funny, the name's not ringing any bells for me, but there you go. Ruth Montgomery, I know because of her work related to Atlantis. And it was interesting, and I'll do a deeper dive into this. This was published in 1971. So some of the things they're talking about obviously have already passed, weren't quite accurate for what was going on in the world at the time. And that's why I love reading the older books to find out where some of this stuff was coming from. But yeah, I'm almost finished that one. Then I started reading The Eagle's Gift. This is by Carlos Castaneda. Also found this at the thrift store because sadly, again, library doesn't have a lot of them. And this is a buddy read with Alan from Big Hard Books and Classics, another channel I need to catch up on because Alan did let me know, excuse me, that he's tagged me in different videos and YouTube hasn't let me know. So that's a bit frustrating. Day before, I started Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And this is the trilogy of 4. It's been ages since I've read Hitchhiker's Guide. So it's been a fun reread and visit. Just needed a good laugh and some chuckles. Doing this as a buddy read with Gareth from Book Songs and Other Magic. And I think I might take a break in between them, but this is one of the Chunky Monkeys I wanted to read. So that tied in perfectly with that. And another book, and I can't remember who did the review, The Gargoyle This is by Andrew Davison, and my brother-in-law loaned it to me. Both he and my sister-in-law have read it, really enjoyed it. They've read it more than once. And it's an interesting story because this individual is in an horrific oh wait, let's see here, because I know something happens to him. Crashes into a ravine, suffers horrible burns over much of his body as he recovers in a burn ward, undergoing the tortures of the damned. He awaits the day when he can leave the hospital, commit carefully planned the S word, for he's now a monster in appearance as well as in soul. But then he meets somebody and they talk about how they've reconnected in other lives. So this will be a very interesting read. Like I say, I've heard this book on one other channel, but it's been ages ago and I haven't heard many other people talk about this. But that will be an interesting read. And I need to make sure I get that done and back to them. And then I have, well, it was funny. I put this on hold at the library. So I don't need to worry about borrowing it from there because they brought me the copy on Friday. So woohoo, now I can start it. And I've got 3 or 4 books coming on quantum physics and simulation theory. And I just ordered 4 books. Yes, I'm still under 60. Woohoo! From Amazon that should be arriving in the next few days. Sadly, Sark Journal isn't one of them. That was a book Margaret was talking about, but they didn't have any copies of it. I might check out and see whether I decide to wait if I can get it through Amazon or pick it up somewhere else. There's 2 other sites that I can check out because there were a number of other books I wanted to get through. I think it was Book Outlet. There's one that only is UK, US. I don't know why that happens so much, but there you have it. But there's another one I know. Booksellers is Canada for sure, booksellers.ca. Then there is the other one, and it had a number of books for less prices, so I'll have to hop onto that. But what I have coming now is UFOs, Chemtrails. It's a book I borrowed from the library, knew I was going to want to keep it, use it as a resource. One of the foreword is by Michael Shermer. Love him. And one of the authors of the book, his father actually worked at Area 51. So that's definitely a book I want to delve into. I have a book coming on the simulation hypothesis multiverse. It's an author new to me, but my brother-in-law mentioned him, so I want to give that a try. Physics of consciousness. This delves into humans, animals, minerals, all of that. So really looking forward to that read. And I finally sucked it up because I couldn't find it anywhere else and ordered Drood, because it's by Dan Simmons, an author I know I very much enjoy. I've looked all over the place, haven't found it anywhere else. The discount sites, Simmons is never in the thrift store, which I find really interesting. There are tons of King, tons of Kuntz, James Patterson, Dan Brown, Patricia Cornwell, like shelves of their stuff. But nobody unhauls Dan Simmons. Go figure. But I'm looking forward to Drood. Not only is it by Dan Simmons, who does a great job of research and checking things out, but it's also about Charles Dickens. So I'm curious about him. After the ghost reads this past winter as and see again, so this is the part. Sorry, Ven, it wasn't showing me all the other comments. So this is the one thing I need to check is it has them coming up for a bit, but then sorry, itchy ears, allergies. You have to click off and come back. So I'm not quite sure what that's about. So I did see that you like spice Peking duck flavor. Interesting. Um, Multiple stuffs. Most here have the dehydrated veg. Yeah, batch cooking, I love it. It has made such a difference because when I've got like different meats, so whether it's ground beef or chicken, whatever, get it all done. Even with mac and cheese, I make huge batches. And same with the vegetables. I've got a big wok and I'll do two massive batches of veggies, pop them all into containers, and then you just pull things out as you need them. And I need to do probably within the next month or so, I make a big batch of onion soup, and that way you can either enjoy it as soup or you can use it as if you're making a roast. It's a great side gravy, or you could put veggies in it. Like, I find both for time and money. Man, I wish I'd been batch cooking way before now, but here we are. Everything comes up. Just gets called regatta Oh, okay. So that's for the chiga. Regatta pasty. People get confused. Yeah, because there's so many different kinds. Council. Oh, it's not available at yours either. Least in digital. No, we don't have it physical or digital, which I'm like, seriously? How is that possible? Which is sad that so many of the classics are disappearing. Yeah, I have tons to read too. Now, I'm actually doing not too bad in terms of my overall audit compared to what I have on my shelves and what I need to read at least a first time. There's a number of them I've read 2, 3 times. And I think from what I've purchased so far this year, up to these 4 that are coming, I'm at like 30, 35 books read. So I'm 20 shy of what I've bought versus what I've read, but I need to go back and get things figured out. At least I've got some of my to be finished books finished, but I think that's still sadly sitting at 60. No idea how to do all those Discord things. Yeah, me either. But I'll figure it out at some point, I guess. Not stream since made you angry. Yeah, that can happen with games. And to be honest, it's why it's best I don't do gaming online. When I used to play Mario or Zelda and some of the others, I mean, I love playing them, but I definitely if I get stuck, I get very frustrated. And yeah, the language gets, what is it you would say, salty? Which wouldn't be good on a live stream. Started an arc, been excited for The Rising Gale by Z.B. Steele. Grimdark Fantasy, a follow up to one of the 3 5-star reads. Ooh. Well, I hope it is an amazing read. Pretty much stopped watching YouTube last couple of months. Given up on catching up at this point. Yeah, it's kind of hit and miss. I mean, I'm trying to catch up. I'm much more selective about what I'm watching, how often I'm watching. I've kind of got back to TV the last few weeks, and I think we're almost up to the last season of Grimm. We have a few more episodes, and so Grimm, the monsters. Oh, forgot to mention when Margaret was here earlier because it was filmed in Portland. So it's kind of cool because you see all the backgrounds. It has to do with the Portland PD, and that's actually where they filmed it. The story isn't just set in Portland, it was actually produced and filmed in Portland. And I know they've been talking about doing a new Grimm, so I don't know if it's going to continue on with the original characters, follow on with the kids of the characters. But they were also talking about all the money it put into Portland because, of course, the actors, the crew, everybody was there. So, yeah, hopefully but yeah, eventually I'll less TV again, get back to my maybe 2, 4 hours a week and get into doing other stuff. But for now, we're getting through it as best we can get through it. Laugh and chuckle is why I go back to Pratchett. Yeah, I still need. Okay, I need to write that down next to there because I still don't have Pratchett. I still haven't tried out that Pratchett book you had suggested, so I'll have to give that a whirl and see. Still have Hyperion to read on it's on my shelf too, so maybe at some point we'll both read it because I was lucky I got the Hyperion Cantos for $1. Oh, see? So I did find one Simmons at the thrift store, and it was Hyperion Cantos. And I still need to get around to reading that. And I think that is one of my Chunky Monkey reads for this year. And I'm looking around because I had a list on one of my bulletin boards, and I need to keep track. So that might be one of them. Need to add 2 books onto the pile. Ooh, a special due. Got another one yesterday. Nice. Now, do they have the pretty sprayed edges? Or are these just books you've been waiting to get? Very stuck, kept getting, turned into a red puddle. Oh, yeah, that would be Resident Evil. Might do a sci-fi month in September. Ooh, have a bit of a backlog. Well, and that's the other. And this year, I haven't been doing book events, partly because I have way too many books and I don't want to keep putting things aside waiting. And then if I'm not in the mood to read it, so far I haven't done any events this year. We're into June. So June, July, August is Book Trek. Vin, have to enunciate that, VIN, from Revenant Reads, does that for 3 months every summer. I think this is year 5 for him. And I have a bunch of Star Trek books sitting down there it started. Well, when I found out about it 2 years ago, I only had a Star Trek magazine. Now, thanks to my thrift store, I have a shelf on my one bookcase downstairs that's all Star Trek novels, TV show, all of that. But I've got too many other vampire reads and so many other things on the go. So I'm trying to get my reading figured out. And that's part of doing the sprint stuff too, is I need to start doing some of the reading, getting notes done. I've got a basket back there of books, which this way. So that whole basket behind the shelves are books that are waiting for me to do notes on. Like, it's nuts. My life has spiraled out of control. There's books I need to do notes on, books I want to read, videos I want to make. It's like, whoa! The special, well, ooh, nice. So one sprayed edge, one not. July's up, your first event of the year. Be my only actual event. Yeah, there you go. Well, and again, like, and you've been a little more into the gaming, which is fine. Like, we all got to do what we got to do to keep moving forward and all of that kind of stuff for sure. Um, it's funny because actually in July, I'm doing a buddy read of The Amulet with Greg, another bibliophile, because, any excuse to read Michael McDowell, I'm all over that. So I guess technically that would fit in the Don't Die July, but well, I don't know. I'll make a video at some point, but I mean, I haven't been doing that either. There's a Star Trek Voyager. Ooh, Star Trek Voyager game out. Want to buy and play. Nice. Now, see that I might find interesting, but well, like any new books, right? The games you've really got to watch the cost and all of that type of thing. Like it's wild. So thank goodness for the thrift store. And in a way, thank goodness I didn't have a ride on Friday because it was the 50% off sale. And I'm like, yeah, then I'd suddenly have even more books. And I've got a ton to read now as it is. Like I say, I've got these 4 coming from Amazon. I need to check. I think it's Book Outlet. I know I've got it saved. It was Kat let me know about it. So I need to check that one because what I need to do is find the piece of paper. Like, I have so many notes. I've got to keep working around that, get things moved to my calendar, get my calendar on the wall, organize, set up, make notes of things because there's things I've missed, things I forgot. I'm just like, oh my gosh. But we're all doing the best we can one day at a time. So it is now noon, and that means it's time to feed the kiddos, get outside, see what the little groundhogs are up to, and all the other antics, as well as the feral cats, because I know I've seen Lily and Chin this morning. I'm surprised Panther and Tiki didn't come boogieing in, but yay that the new camera works well, the audio works on it. That means I can start recording the reading again. So I have the book by Chaz that I want to read a chapter of, Talendor's Guest, and he's given me permission. I have works by Gareth Howells that I want to read. He's also given me permission. And of course, Midnight Detective Agency by Nicole's Bookish Nook. Love all these authors giving me permission to read their work. Makes me a very happy gal. And then, yeah, a few other stories because there's a bunch of things on the Gutenberg site that I can read for the vampires. Whoop, whoop. So, yeah, one bit at a time we'll get through this week. Hoping all goes well on Thursday. Keeping myself uber busy and distracted in the meantime. Thursday is going to be a long day because Bob will be leaving before 7 in the morning and home, I don't know when, late in the afternoon. That's going to be a long day, but now they have this thing and it's good but freaky because they have an app for that. So I'll be able to check on my phone with the app when he's in surgery, when he's out of surgery. But yeah, that's going to be a day where I'm either going to be catching up on YouTube and coloring. Don't want to be outside doing yard work because, I don't want to miss a call or any of that. So that'll be a definite indoor day and day doing something, keeping myself distracted for sure. And other than that, yeah, so hopefully I haven't missed any comments. Uh, the one, okay, so, and then I've done this too. Buy a diary, never use them. I have a number of different planners, and that happened as well. And I'm trying to come up with ideas of how to do them, redo them, and make them workable. Because I've done the same. I mean, I've got some I did good, and I like the sayings on the front. They were divided by month, so you had a monthly calendar, weekly breakdown, other stuff in the back, and that. Some I did great and used really well. Others, not so much. So I want to find a way to recreate something and get those pages used up in some way, even if it's like using them up in the junk journaling. And I want to get to that as well. So there's lots of different projects on the go. We just got to get through this week, get through Thursday. Friday will be a chill because he's going to be sleeping and relaxing and resting. And Tiki and Panther will be uber excited because Daddy's going to be home for 2 weeks and a few days. So that will make them happy little campers. And yeah, then it means hopefully if this weather smartens up, we had to close the doors and windows yesterday because the furnace came on. It is nuts. I mean, I'm used to some cool weather this time of year, but the furnace on May 31st, that is insane. And even trying to get stuff done outside, it's too cold to dig up the plants. The poor roots get shocked, and then moving them, it's crazy. So I don't know. Hopefully things level off. So then, yes, thank you. Hoping Thursday goes well. Yeah, the app thing was wild to me too, because at first I didn't even know about it. And it was when, I don't know, it's hard to keep track of his different stuff. Might have been when they were doing surgery on his hand. This thing came up on my phone. I'm like, what is this? And it was the hospital letting me know. I'm like, what now? And he didn't tell me ahead of time. So I'm like, okay, I can track this now on my phone. It's very weird. Yeah, we're not expecting rain for a couple of weeks, oddly. Yes, sunshine. We've had rain, sun for the last few days, the past week actually. It just isn't, the temperatures aren't warm. We've had blue skies, sun, no rain, but it's definitely not warm. We had one day, was it yeah, one day last week, which thankfully I went out and cleared some of the flower beds and things. But thank goodness I didn't dig up plants and plan to move them the next day because it's too fucking cold. Like I haven't even been to the garden center yet because there's no point buying plants to have them just sitting on the deck and waiting. So that will be a week or so, maybe 2 weeks away because it's crazy. It's almost like our weather is running a month behind what it should be. Like this would be more, we had our rain more in May. It's supposed to be April showers, May flowers. Our lilacs have come and gone. At least we had a bit of fragrance with them, but I don't know. It's very bizarre. Been saying not convinced the NHS has computers, never mind apps. Feels like it's stone tablets half the time. Yeah, it's a bit bizarre how different things are over there. I mean, we've certainly got issues here with our medical stuff, no doubt. Bob, on the other hand, is uber lucky, good doctors, gets in, gets things done. My experience is very different than his, as are my issues, but either way. But I'm grateful that, his stuff is getting done quickly. So, yeah, fingers crossed. But with that, I am going to say thank you to everyone who has joined and participated. Love the interaction, the comments, hearing your thoughts, what you're up to. Much appreciated. I'm going to wish you a great week. Big hugs and much love to everyone, and take care. And I will be back next Monday. And we're going to see, I have to peek like this because my button's behind the webcam. And it was cool that it gave me a countdown for the starting live. So let's see what happens.